So just a little bit of a rant here, or whatever you want to call it, on the two-tier justice or the discrepancies or the prejudices or whatever you want to call them here in the Port Townsend area. Quite a few months back, I got an officer cam footage and some incident reports about an incident on Milestone. I didn't order it. I didn't know the name of the parties. I kind of just got it when I was trying to find something else. And this guy had a piece of property, and he had an assistant or girlfriend, and her son was living in the studio apartment or like some a guest house or something on the property. And he had a girlfriend living there. So I think he was paying rent and then he wasn't, or whatever the reason. But the guy that owned the property didn't want him there anymore. He didn't want him there. So he asked him to leave and he wouldn't leave. And so clearly the person's a tenant. You know, if they live there or they're a guest or whatever. Here in Washington, we have these rules, like even squatters' rights, right? Really big on if someone's living there, you have to give them 30 days. And you can't just evict somebody. And the tenants have a lot of rights. And, you know, you can think that's good or bad. That's not the point. The tenants have a lot of rights. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, so he got fed up with them. And I think he was yelling at him. And he was running around outside, or however the story goes. And he had some sort of gun. I think it turned out to be a BB gun. And he was like, you know, bird hunting with his cat or some weird thing. It wasn't like... But I'm a Montana gal. I've lived here in the Port Townsend area about 12 years, and I've been in real estate for about 20 years. And so it struck me as odd that what happened was the tenant, so the girlfriend or assistant's son, called 911 and said they felt threatened by the landlord, the man on the property, whatever. And so the cops come out there, and they arrested the man, and they took him to jail. Okay, so I watched several different versions of officer cam footage. There were some different redactions and stuff, but I watched this part where they're explaining to him, well, okay, so, I watched his hearing. I know what it was. I was watching a Jefferson County court on YouTube, and I was like, well, this is curious. I've never heard anything like it. So that's why I got the records for it. Now I remember, because the guys, I watched his hearing there. It was with Judge Mindy Walker, and he was getting ready. He wanted, be arraigned, released from jail, whatever. And so he said it's his property. And they're like, well, they couldn't figure out in the arraignment whether the studio or the guest house or whatever was close to the house or far away. So Judge Walker ruled that he can't go home. So she said he can't go back to the property. So because they felt threatened, they have tenants' rights, and he can't go back to the property. He owns the property. Okay, it's in the records. You can look it up. He owns the property. So I thought, well, that's weird. That would never happen in real estate or Montana. Like, he owns the property. So there's a lot of tenants' rights. Okay, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what happened. The guy's like, well, where am I going to go? And the judge is like, well, I don't know. You just can't go home. So I don't know if it was 2 weeks or whatever, a certain amount of time they had to do whatever, that he wasn't allowed to go home, and he owned the property. So his assistants, and so I seen the officer cam footage, and his assistant or girlfriend or whatever, I think his assistant, came and picked him up, and it was her son that was living there. And then she, was going to go to the house and get his laptop, get some of his essentials, and then he was either going to have to stay at a hotel or somewhere because he couldn't go back to the property, even though he owned it. Okay? Now we fast forward to all of this massive, incredible conspiracy, like movie-style conspiracy around Libby Winstrom and all of the people that are in the satellite around her. Okay, so this massive effort to silence a government whistleblower, which is Jenny Ellison. So what happened was, I'm going to be very vague on this because I have protective orders against me. I'm not going to be talking about people I'm not supposed to be talking about. But she's legally a vulnerable adult. They constantly lie in court that she's not. She absolutely is. It's right there in the doctor's records. And so she felt threatened by some people and tried to get protective orders, and she was denied. As you see my posts out there, like all this paperwork I brought of leaving her for dead, pushing her to suicidal attempts, leaving her in California, tons of documentations, right? I provide documents. The other side, it's just their stated word. And the judges take that every time because they're very partisan. They're very picking one side. You know how people talk about the Trump derangement syndrome? Well, I found here in Port Townsend, there's something called the Eric Wenstrom derangement syndrome. Never met him. Never been a proxy for him. I'm going to do a video here again in a minute on that because there's so much in the courts. Like, oh, she's a proxy for, I don't know, Eric. I've seen the public records, so I know the truth about what's going on with these people. I don't speak for anybody but myself. I'm going to do a separate video on that. Okay, so after Ginny went to court and Judge Remsen, or Court Commissioner Lorraine Remsen, dismissed her protective orders, said that I didn't have a right to file them as a victim's advocate, said that Ginny wasn't a vulnerable adult, even though the judge is not a medical expert, and I gave the medical expert, I gave the psychiatrist, I gave the expert, I gave all of the documents of proof of how much duress and stress she was under. They ruled that she's not a vulnerable adult and dismissed the protective orders. Not only did Judge Remsen do that, but she gave the other side protective orders against her. Okay. Now, Remsen also in that made me remove an interview that I'd done with the whistleblower talking about who sunk the boat touchdown, how it all happened, how it was connected to Libby Wenstrom, a government official here in Port Townsend, a city council member. And I was, through a court order, I was ordered to remove online content, violated my First Amendment rights. It's called an unconstitutional prior restraint. So not only did I have to remove content, I wasn't allowed to talk about Ginny Ellison. I mean, not Ginny Ellison, but her abusers. I wasn't allowed to talk about the people that had attacked us at the press conference that organized it. I wasn't allowed to mention, I'm still not allowed to mention Libby Wenstrom's nonprofit. Any of the names of, I'm banned from the YMCA. I'm banned, and I can't even say that big yellow building at the end of town. I'm banned from a couple other beaches because other people go there and they're more important than me in the courts, the partisan courts of Port Townsend. So when we went to court and Judge Remsen just denied Ginny Ellison all victims' rights, she had a mental break. Remsen then just focused on me and silencing me, the victim's advocate. She's not really a victim's advocate. Been doing it 20 years. Been doing it the way I do online 20 years. I have a nonprofit. The other side just said, she didn't win her case Obsidian versus Cox. She's got 6 heads. They're like, oh, she's got 6 heads, right? They're like, everything they say was taken as fact, right? And basically, well, it just wasn't. So, I forgot what I was going to say. So they focused on me. They said, Crystal's not a victim's advocate. She's the proxy for Eric Wenstrom, right? It's Eric Wenstrom derangement syndrome. Don't know him, okay? I'm not a proxy for anybody. Never have been, never will. Been doing this for decades. Met Ginny once in my house when I did the whistleblowers all come over and, Remsen's made me remove all that to protect Libby Wenstrom. Never met Eric. And I seen Ginny a couple times when I went to court to be her victim's advocate because she really, really was being abused by these men. I provided facts and they denied her rights, right? She's like 5'2", 5'4", they're 6'4". She has a bona fide mental health condition. She actually goes into different personalities. She had a break after what Remsen did with her and she had to be hospitalized. Okay. So once she was hospitalized, then the bad guys got to her landlord, which turns out everybody's related. I didn't know any of this. I just seen a woman that was under duress, a woman that was being abused. Classic. Any psychiatrist would look at those messages and what these men were doing to her. After Remsen gave a protective order against Ginny, then the bad guys, so a bunch of different people, then came to her house, came to her stuff, came to unraveling her life, right? And because the courts favored them. And like I said, I call it Eric Winstrom derangement syndrome. So she had a mental health break, and she was hospitalized. When she got out of the hospital, she tried to go back to where she'd been living. Now, she'd been living there for a couple of years, on and off for a few years. The records show that. She's received mail there. She has stuff there. She's been served court documents there. The person who owns the property says that she doesn't live there and she didn't pay rent. Okay. There's ring cam footage. There's officer cam footage. There's bank records that she paid him rent, but he just states she didn't live here. And then the courts in Port Townsend go, okay, she didn't. Crystal's a proxy, and Crystal's a proxy for Jenny, and Jenny's a proxy for Crystal. Like, don't even know these people, right? I'm just reporting on the Julie Jaman press conference and all the people that were involved in it. Okay. And so the landlord evicts Jenny. He just throws her out, says you cannot come back, wouldn't let her get her stuff. She had to go up there with cops to try to get her stuff. Now, this is about 3 months later. She hasn't been able to get her stuff. She's been constantly harassed. The people that have protective orders against her harass her, message her, taunt her, threaten her. The other side says, no, Jenny's doing it. She's the evil one, right? So they look at this woman that's got this mental health issues, that is a vulnerable adult. This is small, short woman. And she's the one that they've demonized into the bad machinations of the bad guy, because they like Libby Winstrom better. They like that politics better. They like that side better. So as I started this story telling you about the milestone issue, what didn't happen for Jenny, because she's a government whistleblower. So she wasn't allowed to stay on the property again. She wasn't allowed any rights. She had proof she lived there. She paid the guy. He didn't want to admit it because he was on, I guess, I don't know, it's SSI or Social Security. I don't know what it is. But she had the proof. I seen it in officer cam footage. And so they go to court and they say, like, I got 20 legs and 40 heads. And then the judge says, okay. And it's a fact. I bring documents to proof, and it's not heard at all. So the hypocrisy that this long video is pointing out is that tenant rights are very favor the tenant, unless Libby Winstrom's involved in any way. During a moratorium, and when the law was that a landlord couldn't serve her own tenant, she served her tenant, Luke Seymour, ruined his life. Ruined his marriage, ruined his relationship. Chief Tom Olson allegedly went and pressured him as well. Even went in his private car, I guess, with his wife, according to Luke. And he had to move away. It was never the same. He was evicted and pressured out right away, because it involved the political elite. Jenny has been harassed. She had no tenants' rights. She had no human rights. She had no rights as a woman, as a domestic violence victim, even with incident reports and record of it. She had no rights as a woman. She had no rights as a vulnerable adult. She has no rights as someone with a mental handicap or mental disability. No rights at all. None. But like I said, in this case in Marlstone, the tenants, like, just the assistant or girlfriend's son that's living there can't get him out, right? They make the property owner move until he feels safe. Now, this is the hypocrisy that we're seeing all the time in Port Townsend. And right now, the amount of duress is still at Jenny Ellison, because she knows what Libby Winstrom has done. She knows what happened to Touchstone. Lorraine Rimson, the court commissioner, made me remove the other whistleblower talking about what really happened to sinking that boat. The Julie Jaman shutting down the First Amendment stuff. And then whatever they got going on with Eric and their divorce and their nonprofit and all their, like, I don't know, but they're all crazed and they just all lump me in with all of it. So, email me, reverendcrystalcox@gmail.com, if you've had this sort of experience, right? I see people in town where they're just evicted and their stuff's thrown out on the street. Other people, they get rights to stay there. They get 30 days. You see all over the Pacific Northwest squatters' rights. People move into houses and they just don't leave, right? They have all kinds of rights. But here in Jefferson County, the police, the judges, and they use protective orders and they use all kinds of weird little things to mess with who they don't like and support team who they do like. And it is discriminating. It is very partisan. It is very hypocritical. I don't know. Like, I guess I've only lived here 12 years. I guess Eric Winstrom's lived here I don't know. They've been here like 30, 40 years. Maybe everything goes way back. I don't know what all their story is, what they're all trying to hide, what they're all trying to cover up. But I know what they've done to Jenny Ellison because I've seen all the evidence. I've seen the videos. I've seen the audios. I've got the transcripts. I've got the witnesses. I provided them to the court, and the court said, yeah, we don't like her. So when they pretend that they care about people with mental health issues, care about domestic violence situations, they don't. They only care about politics. Like I said, I got the documents on that story because I was stunned. Being a Montana girl and everything, I was like, well, gosh, they made that guy get a hotel. I mean, he couldn't even go back to his own home. His tenants had more rights than him as a homeowner. Wow, I was shocked. And then now, Jenny, they're just like, nope, she never lived there and she has no rights to be here. And all of her stuff's there and ring cam and evidence that she's been there for at least, a couple years and all the rent that she's paid, records of it. And they're like, nope, she didn't do it. Right. So there is absolutely double standards. And I probably left some stuff out here, but I just wanted to point out to you that when they want to silence somebody, the Port Townsend, the police, the judges, they'll use anything and everything in every way and every lie. I read a declaration today put in the courts about me. Absolute lies. Okay. I'm going to do another little video here on about me being a proxy. So look for that one. And I think I'll just shut up on this one. Anyway, that's my you've been evicted ramble, and other people get to stay there for 3 or 4 years and not pay anything. And other people get evicted in minutes. That's political. That's discrimination. That's 2, 3, 4-tier justice system. Okay. It's nothing to do with mental health rights, women's rights. We care about domestic violence. We care about people who are bisexual or people who are hurting or people who are vulnerable adults or people that have a bona fide lifelong mental health issues. So when they tell you it's mental month and we're a human rights sanctuary, don't believe any of their crap. Okay? Don't believe any of it.